Hello young readers, today we are going to learn the lesson A Letter to God from 10th class CBSE First Flight book. The lesson A Letter to God, as the name suggests, talks about a person, Lencho, who has unlimited faith in God and trusts that God is going to solve his problems. He feels that there is no one else but God who is going to help him, and strikes a conversation with God in the form of a letter. So let's go into the summary of the lesson, A Letter to God. In this lesson, we see the character of Lencho, who is the protagonist of the story, is seen as a very simple person who leads a very simple life and lives a solitary life along with his family though. His house is situated in a valley, and it is the only house in the valley. He has a cornfield and he is waiting for a rain, a shower, a downpour, whatsoever, for having a good harvest. So he looks at the northeast clouds, at the sky, and finds that there are some promising clouds there and predicts there is going to be rain. He's very hopeful that there is going to be rain that day, which was the need of the day. As he had predicted, there was a rain, surely. He was very happy and pleased and relieved that definitely he is going to have a good harvest. He compares the raindrops to coins, because it is these raindrops that are going to bring a good harvest, and the harvest is going to bring him good money. He compares these raindrops to coins. But his happiness is short-lived. Soon, the rain turns to a storm, strong winds, and that in turn turns to a hailstorm. Very large hailstones fall from the sky and destroy his complete crop. All the plants are destroyed. Not a single flower is left on the plants. He compares this damage to the damage caused by a plague of locusts. He feels that probably locusts would have left a little more on his crop when compared to the damage done by the hailstones. So he is utterly disturbed, very sad and shocked. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the destruction. That night, he was very, very sad and also feared that probably his whole family will go without food for the forthcoming year. He was thoroughly disturbed, disappointed, very, very sad. And then he remembers one thing, that yes, he had been taught this as a child. He had been instructed this as a child, that God sees everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. God sees everything. So, strongly believing what he was taught as a child, he thinks that there is only one hope he has got, and that is help from God. And that is how he comes with the idea of writing a letter to God. So we have seen Lencho has written a letter to God. What does he write in this letter? He writes, God, please send me 100 pesos. And he also explains why he needs this money. He says he needs this money to sow the crop again and for his family to survive till he gets the harvest. For this, he needs 100 pesos. He writes this and he puts the letter into an envelope and writes the address on the envelope. The two address. God. Very confidently, he takes the letter to the post office and drops it in the mailbox. Now, the post office employees, when they take out all these letters out of the box, they find it very strange that a letter is written to God. And the postman jokes that he had never seen the address, the address of God. So he doesn't know where to send this letter. So they all the post office employees have a good laugh at this letter. Henceforth, he takes the letter, the postman takes this letter to the postmaster. The postmaster also had a good laugh at the beginning. But then he suddenly realizes, a letter to God? And he is totally impressed by the faith of this person who had written the letter to God. Look at the faith he has in God. He strikes a conversation with God. So he's totally amazed, impressed totally. So he thought that this faith whatsoever this writer of this letter has should never be shaken. It should remain as it is. So he decides to answer this letter on behalf of God, because he believes that God is not going to answer it personally. So in order to restore, to keep the faith of Lencho in God as it is, he decides to answer the letter. He opens the letter, reads it, and when he reads the letter, he understands that he doesn't just need a pen and paper in order to answer this letter. What does he need? He needs money, 100 pesos, which he himself doesn't have. But then he doesn't step down, he doesn't step back. He sticks to his resolution. He had decided to answer Lencho. And he continues, he's still determined to help him out. So what does he do? He takes the help of his friends and the other employees of the post office, and he himself puts a part of his salary and he gathers 70 pesos. He was not able to gather all the 100 pesos. It's quite a big amount for him. It was possible for him to gather only 70 pesos. So he puts the money into an envelope and he signs the letter as God and post this letter. When Lencho comes to collect, to check if he has any letter from God, a response from God, we know he has this unshakable faith in God, and he trusts that he's going to get this money from God. He strongly believes that God is going to send him this money. So he comes down to the post office, finds an envelope on his name, and he's not at all surprised to find a response from God, a letter from God. That was the level of his faith in God. Well, the postmaster was watching him curiously as to what his response would be. He himself was very happy and satisfied with himself because of the good deed he had done. He had tried to help a stranger. He had also tried to restore his faith in God. He feels very good from inside. The postmaster had been watching Lencho carefully, closely for his reaction. Now Lencho opens the envelope, takes the money out, and after counting the money, he's very angry. Well, this comes as a surprise to the reader, because we expect Lencho to be very grateful, thankful to God for having sent him the money. We don't find anything of that sort. We are able to see only his unshakable faith that he's going to send the money. That's it. We don't see that he's grateful to God. Looks like he has taken God for granted. That definitely God is going to do this for me. It's as if it's God's duty to be helping him out at this moment. Well, when he counts the money, he's very angry. And immediately he asks for a pen and paper and he starts writing a second letter to God. And what does he write? Send me the rest of the money, the 30 pesos. Actually, he asked for 100 and he received only 70 pesos, isn't it? So he asked for the rest of the money. God, send me the rest of the money as I need it. That speaks of his arrogance. He's arrogant. He should have been happy for the help he had received from God. He seems to be demanding. He demands God to send him the rest of the money. So he writes this letter, and the closing line of the story is the twist to the story. He writes, God, don't send the money through the post office this time, as the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Now this comes as a surprise to the reader. Now these very post office employees who had gathered all this money out of sympathy, out of goodwill, are referred to as a bunch of crooks by Lencho, because he feels that these people must have stolen the money, as he strongly believes that God has sent him all the 100 pesos, but he finds 30 pesos missing, which means for him that the post office employees had stolen this money. So that is how the story goes, and it ends that way with the line how Lencho had written his second letter, with the line that these post office employees are a bunch of crooks. So that is the story in short.